I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
This didn't feel like a normal playoff run. It felt like a story that kept rewriting itself in real time. One punch from Indiana, a counterpunch from Vegas, and then a third character barging in with a whistle. Possession by possession, the energy swung. Momentum cracked. Fans stared at the screen wondering whether they were watching basketball or an experiment in control. The tension wasn't fake. You could hear it in the crowd. You could see it on the bench. You could feel it in the way every single call bent the floor a few degrees one way or the other. And yet the games stayed close enough to keep hope alive. That's what made this series addictive. Indiana's pace, Vegas's poise, and a constant sense that the next 3 trips down could flip everything. But it wasn't just strategy and shot making. It was timing. It was nerve. It was that uneasy question hanging over the last 5 minutes. Would the winner be defined by execution or something else entirely?
Disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
Game 1 came like a cold splash. Indiana walked into Vegas and didn't blink. Ball pressure, quick swings, clean looks that punished lazy closeouts. The fever landed first, and the shock wasn't the score. It was the body language. The champs looked human, rattled, forced to play reaction basketball against a team that refused to give away easy possessions. For one night, the underdog controlled the rhythm and left with proof they could make this a real fight. That wake-up call triggered the Aces adjustment machine. Switch coverages got tighter. Help arrived one step earlier. The weak side corner wasn't free anymore. By the time the series moved east, Vegas had turned Game 1's surprise into a map of what to erase. Indiana still found slivers of daylight, but they had to work for every inch. Every shot came with a body leaning into it. Every drive met a second defender before the rim. The message was subtle but loud. No more shortcuts. And yet, the chessboard never fully tilted. Indiana's counters had teeth, high-low entries to shift the paint, early offense to dodge set defenses, sprint actions that forced the Aces to talk, or give up a corner 3. The scoreboard kept saying there was still a path through the storm, which is exactly why the next part of the story exploded.
So why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
The league has argued about officiating all year, but this series turned debate into a drumbeat. One night, the free throws lean here. Next night, they lean there. Fans clip sequences and freeze the moment a coach reaches for a timeout. Comment threads fill with slow-motion breakdowns of screens, bumps, and box-outs. It stopped being about a single miss and started sounding like a pattern people could feel even if they couldn't chart it in real time. That's what grabs attention. Impact you can sense, even before you see the replay. Quick ask while you're here, because it genuinely helps. If you want deeper, data-driven breakdowns like this, shot charts, foul maps, and late-game possession trees, tap subscribe and turn on notifications. Hit like if you appreciate long-form analysis that doesn't just recap the score but explains the turning points. And drop a comment with the one sequence you want us to dissect frame by frame. Low subscriber count limits how often we can produce these. Your click literally unlocks the next deep dive. Back to the court. The thread pulling fans forward wasn't anger for its own sake. It was the frustration of not knowing what would be called from one possession to the next. Players adjusted, then the standard shifted again. That uncertainty reshaped the mental game, and once you change a team's mind, you change its feet. Spacing compresses. Jumpers rush. Turnovers creep in from places that used to be safe. The whistle didn't only add points, it stole rhythm.
Asia Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul called.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Gray in the corner.
There was a stretch in Game 3 that lives rent-free in highlight reels. A foul call lands. The bench signals for a timeout to challenge. Hands go up, voices rise, nothing happens. The next shot drops for the other team, and it feels like the room exhales in the wrong direction. Seconds become a cavern. Fans clip the moment, pair it with commentary, and ask a simple question. If the process falters in real time, what recourse is left? No one is claiming every complaint is proof of anything sinister. Basketball is messy. Calls get missed. Reviews don't always fit into tight timing windows. But those are exactly the moments when trust is won or lost. It isn't just the ruling, it's the visibility of the process. Did the crew hear the request? Did they acknowledge it? Is the threshold for stopping play consistent? When a critical chance to review evaporates without explanation, it doesn't just cost a possession, it invites doubt to sit courtside. Momentum doesn't care about intent, it cares about sequence. Missed challenge. Quick 3, the other way. Crowd turns from roar to rumble. The scoreboard leans. Coaches are forced to shorten rotations earlier than planned. From TV, it looks like a single swing. On the bench, it feels like a dozen tiny fractures spreading through the game plan.
2-minute recap from last night. So Asia Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aaliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Alyssa Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then Asia Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Alyssa Smith gets the call for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep, didn't get touched.
There was a night when a reigning superstar opened clean, then ran into a wall made of patience and footwork. One make, then a string of misses that turned confidence into calculation. Post touches got crowded. Mid-range looks drifted off balance. The defense dared the toughest shots and lived with the results. It wasn't luck. It was discipline. Body in front, hands back, contests late, deny the lane, force the fade, live with the math. And still, the aces didn't break. That's what separates contenders from champions. When a primary option sputters, everything else has to hum. The help defender tags on time. The weak side cutter flashes to the nail. The guard on the far wing doesn't ball watch. She relocates to a passing window and punishes the overhelp. That's how you survive rough shooting nights. You win the in-between plays. You keep the floor tilted through the little possessions no one remembers until they rewatch the tape. This is where Indiana's frustration sharpened. They did the hard part, limit the star, shrink high-value shots, turn contested twos into habit. And yet the result still slipped. That disconnect pokes at competitors. It asks, what more could we have taken away? And it fuels the feeling that the margins lived somewhere outside pure execution.
Follow it up by Lexi Hull getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexi's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive player's path.
Every series births a role player story that fans rally around. This one had a guard who shouldn't have been comfortable, back barking, minutes in flux, matchups shifting, and still found ways to change the temperature when it mattered. A corner 3 at the exact right time. A hard tag on the roller that buys a second for help to arrive. A defensive stand that doesn't show up as a steal but steals a possession anyway. Those moments are oxygen in tight games. You don't breathe without them. Her minutes were a lesson in intent. Sprint the lane even if you're a decoy. Rebound with both hands even if you're outgunned. Hit the floor first. Make the other team feel the cost of every touch near the glass. That effort is contagious. It spreads from player to player and seat to seat. Gainbridge didn't cheer because the numbers were flashy. They cheered because the timing was perfect and the grit was obvious. It's easy to love stars. It's unforgettable to watch someone punch through pain so the rest can breathe. Indiana needed that fuse. Every time the game threatened to slip, a timely bucket or a stubborn box out dragged it back within reach. That's what competitors remember long after the score fades. The possession, where a teammate's will kept the season alive for one more trip down the floor.
Lexi, you have drawn the most offensive foul in a W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can really say.
There comes a point when everything narrows to shot selection and nerve. Game 5 reached that point and then snapped right past it. Regulation couldn't hold the weight. Overtime asked a simple question. Who could manufacture clean looks when the legs were heavy and the voices in the huddle got quiet? Las Vegas found those pockets. 2 passes, 1 burst, a window so small it only exists for half a second, and they cashed them. The closing minutes showed why the Aces win so much when margins are thin. It's not just talent, it's economy. No wasted dribbles, no hero ball that strangled the weak side. If the first action died, the secondary was ready. If the handoff got jammed, the short roll knew where the relief valve was. That's how you survive the loudest part of a road game and close a series on your terms. Calm becomes a weapon. For Indiana, the film from that overtime will sting now and instruct later. 1 late clock, 1 botched tag, 1 rebound tap that caromed the wrong way. That's all it takes at this level. You store those sequences, label them, and drag them into next season's training camp. They become drills. They become rules. They become the small habits that flip a future overtime in your favor.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Cole will fire. And hit from 3. Last 2 positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull. And a jump ball between Smith and Hull.
Let's talk about the part no fan can ignore. The officiating conversation isn't only noise on social media, it's an erosion problem. When fans don't understand the standard, they invent one, and it's usually the bleakest possible version. Coaches bite their tongues until they can't. Players roll eyes, throw palms up, and risk a tech to make a point. The fines keep the quotes tidy, but they don't fix the friction underneath. The solution isn't complicated, but it does require visibility. Consistency isn't perfection. It's a range that players can map. If hand checks tight on one end, keep it tight on the other. If verticality gets the benefit in the first half, don't rip it away in the last 2 minutes. And when a coach asks for a review in a defined window, the response needs to be immediate and obvious, even if the answer is no. Clear process doesn't erase mistakes. It drains their power to hijack the narrative. Why does this matter so much right now? Because the league is exploding in attention. New fans, bigger audiences, more pressure. That growth is fragile if viewers feel like they're decoding a mystery rather than learning a game. Higher stakes don't demand more whistles. They demand clearer ones. That's the difference between a controversy that burns out in a news cycle and a standard that carries a sport into its next era.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexi Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the quarter.
When you carve away the outrage and slow down the tape, 2 structural truths sit in the middle of this series. Indiana's surge was real. Youth didn't flinch. They forced a champion to live in the uncomfortable parts of the court and almost rode that discomfort into an upset. On the other side, the Aces showed exactly why banners hang. Layers of answers. If the first option stumbles, the second sings. If the star gets smothered, the scheme shifts. That's the bones of a title defense. Everything else was the weather system swirling above those bones. Calls, non-calls, reviews that did or didn't happen, and the digital echo that magnified each one. Weather can decide a day. Bones decide a season. It's okay to hold both ideas at once. You can respect what Vegas built and still demand better process. You can admire Indiana's poise and still admit turnovers arrived at the worst possible times. That balance is how honest analysis lives. So the question isn't whether the better team advanced. The question is whether the path there invited belief or suspicion. Fans don't need perfection to believe. They need rules they can see, standards they can feel, explanations they can trust. Give them that, and the game sells itself.
Back to hole, wide open three is good.
The floor that she wants, doesn't it?
It does. Mitchell, connect. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell, one more. You bet.
This series will be remembered for the moments that refuse to sit still. Game 1's shock, the late-game composure, the role-player heroics, and the whistles that wouldn't leave the conversation. If you love the way we unpacked those tipping points, why a single missed tag is louder than a bad shot, how a challenge window can swing momentum, and where defensive footwork shuts down a star, subscribe to the channel. It's not a vanity ask. Our sub count is small, and your click is the signal that lets us publish more long-form breakdowns without cutting corners. Hit like if this helped you see the game a little clearer. Drop a comment with the exact play you want dissected next. Timestamp, quarter, matchup. We'll pull the angles, chart the options, and show you why a 2-second decision looked inevitable only after the ball went through. The next deep dive starts where your curiosity points. Until then, keep the questions sharp and the standards sharper. The tape always tells the truth.